Sorry, what can you tell me your name?
Hey.
It's a shock to the system to see that many bodies. I'm used to seeing dead and injured people. It comes with the job, but in my career I have never seen any devastation this huge.
The emergency services did a brilliant job on the day. Couldn't fault them. Many more lives would have been lost hadn't they reacted so quickly.
I was the one that phoned Charles. He had severe head injuries and there was nothing I could do. It's his wife I feel sorry for.
Well, it was confirmed today by the Home Office that one of the victims was that of Langford and District MP Charles Thompson Barrett. The Deputy Minister for Transport was one of the 173 people to have lost their lives in the disaster. There will be a special programme looking back at the life of Charles Thompson Barrett tonight at 7:30.
Thanks for joining me again. We've heard from Stephanie Johnson, the paramedic who was on the scene and found Charles Thompson Barrett MP's body. She also witnessed Ling Ling Wong suspiciously fleeing the accident site. In a few moments' time we'll be hearing from Wong and her version of events. Now, due to legal reasons she can't actually be in the courtroom with us and will be communicating via a live satellite link-up from her holding cell. It's going to be very interesting to see how she handles the tough questioning from the prosecution.
The prosecution may now begin their examination of the defendant.
So the Deputy Minister for Transport was just one of the people who lost their lives because of you. The nation has been rocked by your actions. Why did you do this to our country? What have we done that's so bad you come over here to kill us? Problem, cat got your tongue, or do you deny it because it's true?
Objection, Your Honour. Miss Young knows my client speaks little English. Interrogation in this matter is just not acceptable.
Mr Wellings, with respect, your client is still able to answer simple questions.
Not when you're putting words in her mouth.
Mr. Wellings, would you please sit down and calm yourself? I don't see that there's much of an issue here. Carry on, Miss Young.
Thank you. Miss Wong, the CCTV footage witnessed by this court on the day of the explosion showed you tampering with a gas pipe. This was the same gas pipe that led to the deaths of 173 people last December. One question, why? Fixing it to make it look like Mr Marshall had not done the job properly.
No!
Yes.
No!
Why were you running away from the scene of the blast so soon after the explosion? Guilty conscience, not wanting to be found out? I take it from your silence that you have nothing more to give. Accept a plea of guilty to save us an awful lot of time.
OK, that's enough for now, Miss Young. You've made your point. Mr Wellings, I believe you have a statement from the defendant explaining both the CCTV footage and Miss Johnson's video.
Your Honour, I have this statement that my client read verbally to a Chinese interpreter, which gives a valid reason for the defendant's part in both pieces of film you've just mentioned. It reads, and I quote, "I, Ling Ling Wong, am not a terrorist. The only reason I was seen near the gas pipe was because I was trying to fix it. Also, I normally accompany two other people along the same line."
Another incident at the plant was of actual bodily harm inflicted upon Mr Marshall. In her statement, Ms Wong claims that she was looking for a security pass and that this confrontation was self-defence. Kevin Marshall has stated otherwise.
There were no way that was self-defence. I mean, I was never going to harm her, but she just came at me. I've never seen anyone look so aggressive.
Now to the Langford energy plant disaster, and there have been more revelations at the trial of the Chinese worker accused of causing the blast. It was claimed today that Ling Ling Wong was involved in making nuclear weapons before she came to live in the United Kingdom. The court was told that Ms Wong's husband is working for the Chinese government and that they've been in contact on numerous occasions over the past 12 months. Here's Tony O'Grady.
This is the moment when the prosecution attorney, Alexandra Young, informed the court of Miss Wong's coloured past.
Why don't you come clean and admit it? You were helping create nuclear weapons, weren't you?
No.
You didn't know? Let me get this straight. You're unaware that your husband of 6 years was one of your country's leading manufacturers of nuclear explosives.
Is
Ex-husband.
Oh, your ex-husband, the same ex-husband who you've phoned, telecammed and e-papered over 50 times in the past 12 months. We have the records to prove it.
This silence from the defendant only enhances her guilt, but opens our eyes to the possibility that she is part of something much larger. An unsettling thought.
The journalist and TV court presenter Ava Thomas was live in court when the prosecution first examined this evidence. We can talk now live to Ava. What was the reaction in court?
There has definitely been a sense of resignation on behalf of the defence team since the news was broken by Ms Young. Mr Wellings, the attorney for Ling Ling Wong, soon called for a break after the phone records were presented to the court. He clearly knew as much about this as we did.
And what about Ms Wong? How did she react?
Even though she is not in the building, Ling Ling Wong has kept a stern look on her face throughout, and it has become clear that she is fighting a losing battle.
Ava, thank you. Now for the business news with Ian, and yet more disturbing news from China.
We shall now hear from the standing manager of the Langford Energy Plant, Mr John Elliott. So would Mr Elliott please take his place in the witness stand? Mr Elliott, you will now be questioned by Mr Wellings, Defence Counsel for Ms Wong.
So, Mr Elliott, I understand you were visited by the Health and Safety Inspector, Mr Tony Spencer.
Yes, that's right. Tony Spencer did come to the plant on the Monday, I believe, of that week in December, but he wasn't really there, if you know what I mean.
Oh, hello, Tony. Are you busy? I'll leave it to later if you like. No, you're right. Come on in. Okay, I'll keep it brief. There's a problem with the gas canister in the Century. The gas valve in the Century canister. I've informed Mr. Marshall. Mr. Marshall of the potential hazard. You're going to need some sort of servicing for tomorrow. I've already told Gary that you would. Sorry, Gary did this thing. Either way, I'm sure I'll go mind coming out to service for you again. Alright, well, thanks a lot, Tony. I'll leave you to it. Cheers, bye.
Are you implying that one of the most experienced and highly regarded health and safety inspectors in the country is losing the plot?
That's exactly what I'm saying. He should no longer be working for the Health and Safety Bureau.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned the Health and Safety Bureau, as they have given me a statement regarding Mr. Spencer's health. I can confirm that Mr. Spencer was of sound mind at the time of his visit to the Langford plant. Mr. Spencer would tell you himself that he's a fit man. Now, I understand on the day of the blast, you weren't in the vicinity of the plant.
I'd actually just left a few minutes beforehand and returned to the plant as soon as I'd heard the explosion.
Mr Elliott stayed an hour longer than usual at the plant working on the accounts in sight of the recent budget cuts being enforced upon Langford. Had Mr Elliott stayed a further 10 minutes, he probably wouldn't have survived the blast.
Because you weren't there, it wasn't your fault, even though the gas pipe was never fixed, leading to the deaths of 173 of your workers.
Now wait a minute here, all right? You can't blame this on me. The fact of the matter is that it was a terrorist attack, all right? We've seen video footage of your client fiddling with the pipes.
You were in charge, therefore you are to blame. Try to understand.
I'm going to have to stop you there as we're out of time for this morning. We shall adjourn for 1 hour and then return for the final speeches.
While the prosecution and defence prepare for their final speeches, let's take a quick look at what some of the key figures in this trial think about Ling Ling Wong, the devastating blast and the impending verdict.
I obviously feel strongly about this trial because I was so heavily involved in the disaster. People usually pull together